Hey everyone, my name is Caitlin Malone and welcome to my new channel where I'm going to be discussing a subject that has interested me for as long as I can remember. One that I just didn't think belonged on my main channel, and that's because it deserves a channel of its own. So this channel is going to be dedicated solely for true crime stories, but if you do want to go ahead and follow me on my main channel, I have that link down below, and there I've been doing lifestyle videos and vlogs for quite a few years now. That being said, I thought the best video to start this channel off with would be one that actually hit pretty close to home, and that is the very recent unsolved murder of Alexis Sharkey. Strangely enough, I didn't first hear about this case from all of the true crime channels that I do follow, but actually from my boyfriend who isn't even into true crime. I'm pretty sure like a news article popped up on his feed or something. I really think that does speak to how viral this case is. Another reason I really wanted to do this case is because there are so many similarities to her and in my own life that I just feel kind of like a connection to her. She was an influencer like I am. She was also around the same age as me. She was 26 years old. She was from the state of Pennsylvania where my boyfriend was born and raised and where I spent quite a lot of time the last couple of years. And another strange fact is that her mother's name was Stacy and my boyfriend's mother's name is also Stacy. Just a lot of strange similarities to my own life. So what better case to start this channel off with than one that I think is extremely important as well as has a lot of similarities to my own life. Now before I get into this, I just wanted to let you guys know that this case actually is unsolved so far. About 2 weeks ago from filming this video, they released a statement on her cause of death, and that is around the status of her death being a murder. I know there's a bunch of videos on this case, but I went ahead and I tried to compile all of the information from various other like update videos and stuff that I've seen so that you guys could have a detailed yet brief overview of the timeline events as well as red flags that I think are very important to be looking at. I'd also love for you guys to discuss your point of views and opinions down in the comment section below. Let me know if I missed anything that you think is critical. And with that, I think we should start a little bit back at the beginning so we can have an understanding of who Alexis was. So Alexis Sharkey has been plastered everywhere from Fox News to YouTube as an Instagram influencer. It seems like it's been reported that around the time of her death she had around 20,000 followers on Instagram, but from all of the exposure surrounding her death it seems like now she has around 75,000 followers where she was posting some pretty aesthetic photos and travel related content. I also found a small YouTube channel of hers where she was posting things like Princess Polly hauls as well as these like short travel vlogs. She was young, doing what she loved, and starting to really get established when she unfortunately was murdered. Alexis was born on February 6, 1994, according to her famous birthdays account, and was raised in a small town in northwestern Pennsylvania. She studied biology education at the University of Pittsburgh, and her parents are Mike and Stacy Robinault. She also has two sisters. So I'm not quite sure, but I've read that instead of going to medical school, she ended up working at a bar and traveling around. But from just watching her YouTube channel and looking at her Instagram, you can see the wide array of places that she went. As of the last Instagram photo she ever posted, she was in Tulum and she was talking about how much she loved it there, how beautiful the like architecture and like the home decor and stuff was, and how she would love to live there. I mean, same, I wish I could live in Tulum. Her YouTube videos actually gave me this nostalgia from back when everyone used to post those like cinematic travel vlogs, and they're not really a huge thing anymore. Those have kind of dropped off, but I love them, and that's what she was posting on her channel. On her Instagram, she states that she's into toxic-free products. I can gather that she lived a pretty healthy lifestyle, it looks like. She was really into fashion and being kind of like a beauty guru. Alexis was also calling herself a mentor on her Instagram, where it seems she was working for a company called Monate. Definitely pretty controversial. MLMs are famously known to be very sketchy and bad. I get emails from MLMs all the time and it's actually pretty annoying. However, I do know that Stephanie Harlow did some digging. It was that Monate was investigated by the Florida Attorney General because hundreds of people were reporting that the products led to hair loss. But clearly Alexis Sharkey felt comfortable working with this company. It also seems like Monate did the classic thing that companies like to do where they send their affiliates, or I guess their mentors in this case, on fancy trips to try to promote like a lifestyle. A lot of companies do this, it's really nothing new, but it's definitely something that it seemed like Monate did, and Alexis went on these luxurious trips where she promoted the products and the lifestyle that it was trying to portray. And even though Alexis's mom stated that she was surprised that Alexis even got into this type of thing because she was never really into, Alexis rose pretty quickly in the ranks of Monate, and from her social media it looks like she was living it up and living her best life. But as we know, social media is usually a highlight reel. So in December of 2019, Alexis ended up marrying a man by the name of Tom Sharkey, and he was actually 23 years older than her. I'm honestly not even gonna get into that. You're an adult, you can make your own decisions about who you want to be with, no matter how old they are. But yeah, there's a lot of controversy within that kind of stuff. Each their own. Anyways, from what we know about Tom Sharkey, he is from Fort Myers, Florida. That being said, I did try to do a little bit of snooping on my own to try to see if I can find any more info on Tom. From what I've come across, I found what looks to be his Facebook. It seems like people have taken to commenting on the few photos that are still made public. From the videos that Alexis has that feature Tom and them, they're like frolicking around, they're kissing, he's like lifting her up, but he seems to be portrayed in the videos as like a nice guy, like a big teddy bear. Like I said, as we know, social media can definitely be a highlight reel, and from what we know and what I will get into, I'm pretty sure that these videos are. So Alexis and Tom are married. They eventually moved to Houston, Texas in January of 2020, which is where this story takes place. So we're just gonna jump into everything. It's gonna get pretty confusing. There's a lot of details and stuff, so try to just stay with me on this because there's a lot of information. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving of 2020, Alexis spoke to her mother, Stacy, who is still in Pennsylvania, about arranging plans to spend Christmas together. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like she hadn't seen her parents for a while, which is not surprising considering how the year 2020 went. So let's talk about Thanksgiving. According to an interview that Tom Sharkey gave with a Houston reporter named Steve Campion, he stated that he had a Thanksgiving breakfast with Alexis. I personally found it kind of odd that they weren't going to be spending Thanksgiving together, since it would be their first Thanksgiving as a married couple. Personally, I wanted to spend all holidays with my boyfriend, and we're not even married yet. And it turns out Alexis wasn't going to be spending Thanksgiving with her husband because she was actually going to be spending it with one of her best friends, Tanya, and her family. Kind of odd. So Tanya had met Alexis through an app called Bumble BFF, actually like a few weeks into moving into Houston, so pretty soon. I actually know about this app because my best friend used it. She lives in LA and she doesn't really have many friends, and she ended up meeting some friends on there that are also into social media. It makes a lot of sense that Alexis moving to a new place used this app and ended up making some friends off of it, and they ended up being really good friends. Tanya kind of pulled together all these girls and they made this friend group, and Alexis ended up becoming part of this friend group in Texas. I'll let Tanya explain how she viewed Alexis in her own words.
She was always happy, always had a smile on her face. A lot of people looked up to her. She was just very, very positive, always very knowledgeable, knew a lot about what was going on.
So according to text messages, it seems like Tanya extended this invitation to all of her friends that they could come over for Thanksgiving and have Thanksgiving with her and her family if they didn't really have anywhere to go or to celebrate. What seemed even odder is that Tanya didn't just extend this invitation to Alexis and her friends. It also included this guy named Sebastian, which turns out is discussed to be a potential love interest of Alexis's. It seems at this point it's Thanksgiving. Alexis had breakfast with Tom and then went and spent the rest of the day with Tanya and her family celebrating. So later that night, around midnight, Alexis and Sebastian end up going bar hopping because they wanted to continue and drink and celebrate. From what we know or what else may have happened, could have happened, that's all speculation. All we know is that Alexis and Sebastian ended up leaving Tanya's and going to a bar. Tanya didn't go with them. So we're gonna get into the timeline of events now that led up to Alexis's death. A lot of this is known because of text message conversations. I ended up finding this information from a YouTuber called 10 to Life. She had this whole timeline of events that detailed via text what we can gather that happened to Alexis. So around 2:54 a.m., Alexis texts Tanya that she wants to come pick up her car and that she wanted to know if she was awake so she could come inside and get her belongings. But Tanya wasn't awake. She was actually asleep, so she never seen that message until the morning. Instead, it seems like Alexis just picked up her car and drove the 15 minutes back to her own home. I don't want to get into it right now, but remember this point in time when Alexis is getting home this late at night after being at a bar with another guy. We'll get into it in a little bit. But the next day was Black Friday, the day that Alexis disappeared and no one heard from her again. So it's Black Friday, 7:30 in the morning. Tanya finally wakes up and looks at her phone and sees that Alexis had texted her and ends up responding, asking her if everything was okay. Then around 9 a.m., Alexis responds back, explaining if she was just trying to see last night if Tanya was awake and that if she could grab her stuff when she picked up her car. Tanya then responds, offering to bring Alexis's stuff back over for her, but Alexis refuses, saying that she'll come get her stuff herself because she has a lot of stuff there. And then they text till around noon. After that, Alexis's texts ended up going silent till around 5 p.m. The only indication for what was going on during those few hours is some text messages that she sent saying that she had the house to herself and that she was just sitting on the couch watching TV and movies. So it's around 5 p.m. then when Alexis texts Tanya again asking if she wants to go out that night, where Tanya responds saying that she can't go out that night because her mother is still in town. But it seems like Alexis is determined to go out because it's like a Friday night and she's young. She wants to go to the bar again. So then it seems that Tanya doesn't want to go out, so she starts messaging Sebastian, seeing if Sebastian wants to go out. And that is indicated in Instagram DMs that she was sending to Sebastian around 6:28 p.m. Put up on the screen here, but it seems that Sebastian was at work and kind of joking back and forth with her, and that is the last time Alexis is ever heard from. So what happened that night? Well, that is the timeline that we have because of social media. Then we have Tom Sharkey's timeline, which is Very confusing. It is widely reported now that that night Alexis did leave her apartment due to an argument. The question is, who was that argument with? I mean, it's anyone's guess, right? Because it started out in the beginning that Tom Sharkey was adamantly denying that him and Alexis argued. And he admitted in that interview with ABC 13 that Alexis had been drinking a lot. He told her that she couldn't drive. His exact words being that, and I quote, "She understood me, I understood her, we didn't fight when she left. I just told her that she couldn't drive under the influence. She left anyhow, this is where we're at." So why did Alexis want to leave their apartment so badly that night if there was no argument? None of her friends were in walking distance. She was 26 years old. I'm pretty sure she had Uber. She could have Ubered somewhere if she wanted to go somewhere. Why would she just leave? Well, I'm not really sure how many months or weeks later it was, but Tom finally did admit that he did argue with Alexis that night. So now his story is that they fought. Alexis jumped over their balcony, which was on the bottom floor, but she jumped over this balcony that was kind of, you know, waist high, and it had bushes on the other side. Apartment and balcony faced the pool, so she jumped over all this shrubbery, which you can kind of see in the background of this photo. She ended up doing all of this barefoot, and then she ran and jumped into a black car. And this is odd because from the look of her text messages and the text timeline that I just talked about, Alexis was trying to go out, but there's no text evidence that she had planned for someone to come pick her up. So why would she, in this drunken argument, decide to just hop over their patio fence barefoot and jump into some strange black car that's just randomly parked there? If it was just some stranger's car that she jumped into, they wouldn't just speed off. And again, why would anyone just jump into some random stranger's car unless they were in immediate danger, or who knows? I'm just speculating. Like, at best, it could have been an Uber, but again, allegedly, Alexis left the house with no shoes on the start, no socks, just barefoot, but she also left her keys, her wallet, her purse, everything behind. So even if it was like an Uber for whatever reason, she didn't have her phone to like know that it was her Uber. Or, like, if you've ever taken an Uber, you use the app and it says like the license plate, the person, you know, the make of the car, and you usually bring your phone with you. You don't just jump into some random car. That's just my opinion. My opinion also is that none of this makes any sense. This is Tom's opinion on what happened that night, and he then said that he jumped into his own vehicle and tried to track down this mysterious black vehicle, and that he tried to do this by using the Find Your iPhone app on his phone. I don't know how he could find her when her phone was back at the apartment. Your guess is as good as mine. He then says that he drives around for about half an hour trying to find her, and then he loses service, so he just sits at a gas station for 2 hours trying to figure out what to do. I don't know what he was doing for the 2 hours, twiddling his thumbs. Clearly it doesn't sound like he was trying to find his wife that had just run off drunk. So now it is around 9 p.m. on Black Friday, and Tom is sitting at this gas station doing whatever the fuck he's doing. It's around 9:30 p.m. that Tom decides to message Alexis's friend Chelsea's boyfriend. Yes, and he did this on Facebook, asking if he had any idea where Alexis was. And it seems like Chelsea's boyfriend wasn't available at the time. He was off with his friends or family. I heard both stories, but he wasn't on his Facebook. But he actually didn't end up getting back to Tom till around 11 p.m. when he called Tom and had this like 45-minute conversation with him, where Tom actually admitted that him and Alexis got into a fight, into an argument, and that she had left, that he didn't know where she went, and that if he could please let him know if he hears anything. What sparked that argument is still pretty much unknown. Anyhow, it seems like Chelsea and her boyfriend just ended up going to sleep. They didn't think anything too much of it. So Saturday rolls around. Early that morning, Tom calls Chelsea's boyfriend once again, saying that he still doesn't know where Alexis is and that she hasn't returned home. And that's what really confirms to Chelsea that something is wrong. This is just my opinion. I'm just speculating on this part, but maybe Chelsea wasn't too worried the night before because she knew about Alexis and Sebastian's little thing they had going on, allegedly. Maybe in her head she was just thinking, okay, maybe she's out with Sebastian, Tom doesn't know about it, she's not gonna add her friends. It's just me guessing that maybe she wasn't worried that night, but then in the morning when she still wasn't home, that something was wrong. So it's also Saturday morning where Tanya sends a message to the group chat just asking if all the girls were still getting together because they were supposed to get together for a movie. And once again, Alexis doesn't respond to this group chat message, which Alexis always responded to, and that is around the time that the rest of her friends are starting to realize that something is wrong because Alexis isn't answering any of them. So it seems then that Tanya and another friend named Desiree decide to go to Alexis and Tom's apartment to check out for themselves and see what's going on, and they end up knocking on the door and get no response. So they end up sitting in the parking lot for about 2 hours just kind of staking out the apartment, and they don't see Alexis or Tom. Tom's whereabouts from around that time are still unclear. From what I could find, I couldn't really find any information of what he was doing during the morning there because they knocked and no one answered. It seems like after around 2 hours, Tanya and Desiree end up going to the apartment complex's head office and then filing a police report. So I don't know if anyone else is getting the impression that Tom's timelines are like really vague and sketchy, or is it just me? What's really strange is that despite not answering anyone, Alexis's social media accounts are still showing that she's active all the way into Sunday morning, and her red receipts are still on. It is, until this day, her phone is still missing, or it has not been reported that it has been found. So no one has any idea who was on it, because it is that exact same morning that solid waste supervisor John Richardson was called by one of his garbage truck employees and was told that he thought he seen a body or a mannequin sticking out from a bush on the side of the road off an Interstate 10 service road about 17 miles west of downtown Houston. But he didn't stop, and so John Richardson told his employee to keep on working and that he would go in and kind of see if he was right. So he ended up going and checking this location on Red Hall Lane. And upon arriving to the location that John was given, he ended up finding the lifeless, naked body of Alexis Sharkey. So because Alexis wasn't reported missing as of the time her body was found, and there was no ID on her, she was completely nude with nothing around her, she was taken to the Harris County's ME office and labeled as a Jane Doe. So imagine that. You're looking for your friend and she is laying in a morgue. From what it looks like, authorities thought she was left there overnight and that she had died around Friday night. But there is no like definitive time of death that has been given yet. And it would actually be months before her cause of death was released to the public. It was actually released on January 19th. So as I said, about a couple weeks ago as I'm filming this video, and her cause of death is announced as homicide due to strangulation. And it wouldn't be until Sunday when Tom actually goes to the ME's office because he's seen a news report about the body of a dead woman being discovered on the side of the road, and that is when Alexis's body is finally claimed. And as of filming this video, there is no charges been placed on anyone yet, and Tom Sharkey is innocent until proven guilty. But there is a lot of sketchy things that seem to be coming up. I just find it a little strange that he just sees on the news that the body of a woman is discovered and he just instantly thinks that it could be his wife. So that basically sums up the events leading to Alexis's death. So before we get into the red flags, I just want to be clear that Tom Sharkey adamantly denies being involved in his wife's death. He originally claimed that there was no rifts in his marriage and that they were a completely happy couple. So now I'm going to give you some reasons, in my opinion, and it seems to be quite a few others' opinions that I've seen from comments, to why I feel like Tom's claims are pretty sketchy. And again, this is all alleged and in my opinion. I want to start off by noting that Alexis's mother, Stacy, had to fight Tom for access to her daughter's body, and that Tom essentially ghosted her and the ME's office for about 2 weeks, leaving Alexis's body sitting in a freezer. I personally feel like that's pretty telling. He was adamantly denying Stacy access to her daughter. Clearly wasn't doing anything about it himself. But thankfully it seems that Stacy and Mike ended up getting custody of her body. It's just ridiculous that he put her mother through all of that for little to no reason. Another point, immediately after Alexis's friends and family were notified about her death, some of them went to the media claiming that Alexis was unhappy in her marriage and that she was going to divorce Tom. And at the time, Tom was completely denying this. Tom was speaking the complete opposite of how her friends and family were speaking about her. He claimed that she was stressed out and that he was the only one that was holding her together. And I'll quote him here. He said he was cuddling her to make her stronger and that he was the only one building her back up. Now, this is just my opinion. That just seems so eerily similar to a situation I was involved in with one of my exes. One of my exes actually was extremely abusive to his ex, and he was always claiming that he was the only one that could fix her. Meanwhile, it turns out that he used to beat her. He blamed it all on a car accident that, as far as I know, never happened. And as soon as she posted photos of her bruises and everything that he'd done to her on Facebook and accused him of it, he belittled her and put her down and again blamed it on a car accident, and she ended up taking it all down. And just the things he was saying were just giving me the chills because they sound so exactly like my ex and stuff that he used to say. Again, my own opinion, it's just an example of something that it sounds like. It could not be that at all. I've also seen a lot of comments about other women reporting similar situations, so it's totally understandable that someone shows a highlight reel of their life online but only shares their problems with their friends. I just found it extremely odd immediately following her death that her friends and family started reporting this kind of stuff. You know, if there was absolutely no issues, you wouldn't expect friends and family of someone to be saying this kind of stuff about the significant other. And the biggest claim from her friend is pretty terrifying. Alexis's friend Lauren stated in an interview that, "I'm going to be honest, she confided in me about how worried she was for her own safety when we went to Marfa, Texas, almost a month ago. We were sitting down at dinner and she lost it. We walked back to the hotel room and she confided in me that night. I looked at her and thought, she's petrified. This girl is scared for her life." So basically Alexis went on this girl trip and she ended up confiding in her friends while she was there that she was terrified of Tom. It is also mentioned that her friend claimed that Alexis said she wanted to divorce Tom. Her friend said, but one night when her and I were talking alone, she said, he strangles me and chokes me out. I black out and wake up on the bathroom floor every time. Coincidentally, a month later, Alexis is found dead after the last one being reported to see her is her husband Tom, and then around 2 months later, it is reported that her cause of death is from strangulation. I mean, do I need to say it? It's a bit sketchy. A lot sketchy, actually. Super sketchy that the last one to reportedly see her is coincidentally the one that she allegedly said was strangling her, and then her cause of death is strangulation. But of course Tom denies ever being physically abusive with Alexis. So there's another point that she allegedly told her friends that her and Tom were basically separated but living in the same house, which would actually really explain why she didn't want to spend Thanksgiving with Tom, and instead she went over to Tanya's. So the said mentioned texts that were being sent to Alexis during the girl trip. It was actually this really passive-aggressive text conversation between Tom and Alexis, and is detailed in this screenshot of this conversation right here. Another weird point I thought I'd make out was that Alexis was also found about 3 miles from her apartment, so she was found extremely close by. So this is some really interesting information that I've actually only heard one person talk about, and it is this YouTuber named 10 to Life, aka Annie. So in a stream she revealed Tom's divorce papers from his ex-wife, and these papers actually state quite a few things that are very interesting. In these documents, the mother of his children actually states that she only wanted him to have supervised visitation with the children. Further in the document, it states that his family members actually note a change in his mental and emotional condition, that there was threats of suicide from him, and that there were detrimental actions towards his children. And I see all of that as a huge red flag. It actually gives me these really scary vibes towards some other cases that we've heard. Something else very interesting is that these documents actually also state that Tom basically tried to get his wife fired from her job by sending her boss lewd photos of her. What I'm gathering for that is that he sent her boss her nudes, and that he did this to punish her for not giving into his threats. So basically revenge porn, because that's fucking classy. Controlling much? And as 10 to Life points out, Alexis was found dead on the side of the road, completely nude, which normally if someone does this, it's either to try to get rid of evidence or it is to humiliate them. Just wanted to leave this here in the video for you because I thought it was very coincidental that she was found completely nude on the side of the road, which is extremely humiliating. Who would want their dead body to be found on the side of the road completely nude by a garbage man? At the same time, he used revenge, you know what, to try to get his wife fired from work to punish her. Just saying. It's kind of strange. Honestly, Annie did an amazing job breaking down the document. If you want to go check out her video where she goes into even more detail, I'll have that link down below. Okay, my last point I just wanted to make is another one that Annie brought up, and it is the breakdown of the timeline of events. And her theory is one that I actually agree with. So there are 2 theories of what possibly could have happened to Alexis, since the police haven't released her time of death yet. Again, if you want to see the complete full discussion and breakdown, she has like hour-long videos on all of this stuff. I'll have them linked down below. The first theory is going back to when I mentioned is when Alexis came home from going to the bar with Sebastian on Thursday nights. The theory that Annie brought up is that Tom and Alexis were actually getting divorced and they were fighting like it seems like they were, that Tom might have been feeling like he was losing control, and if Alexis really was as terrified of him as it's stated from friends and family that she was, that possibly she was trying to get away from him as much as she could, aka going to Tanya's for Thanksgiving, and also possibly knowing that she was trying to divorce him. She's also trying to like branch out and get away from him and start, you know, her new life already. Possibly was seeing this guy, Sebastian. And so what I'm getting at is that possibly that night when Alexis got home at 3 a.m., Tom was furious that she had been out all night. It would have been Thanksgiving, she didn't spend it with him, and that she was going out with some other guy to a bar all night. And when she got home, whether that is when the initial argument started and something happened to Alexis that night, and why that is throughout the day on Saturday, why Alexis didn't want Tanya to come over, aka possibly Alexis was already dead and Tom didn't want anyone to come over because he was still trying to figure out what to do. Again, this is alleged. This is just a theory because the text messages on Friday were very sketchy. Or they did fight at 3 a.m. and then the next day when Alexis was home by herself, that possibly Tom came home from whenever, or he was already there, and noticed she was texting Sebastian once again, and that's when the fight happened again, and that's when something happened to Alexis. And then this whole story about Alexis running off and Tom disappearing, sitting at a gas station for 2 hours all happened. We don't know. It's just very strange, all of that portion of the story that's very unknown and up in the air and just very confusing and solely based kind of off of Tom's timeline. At the same time, Tom has been changing his story so many times that it's honestly just mind-blowing. I don't know why you would change your story that many times, but you know, we could guess. Whether that weird time period between when Alexis stopped texting everyone all the way to when Tom messaged Chelsea's boyfriends, we don't know. But according to Tom, Alexis ran off and got into some random car and he couldn't find her after that, and he just sat at a gas station. So that is all we know. I just think that all of these red flags and these points are extremely sketchy and don't really make complete sense to, I think, everyone trying to figure out the story. As I said, it's been about 2 weeks since her cause of death was released and I haven't really seen anything yet. I keep looking because I'm filming this video obviously, and I just want to have the most up-to-date information for everyone. So far they haven't done anything. Everyone was kind of speculating that since they released the cause of death that a warrant may go out for someone's arrest or someone may be declared a suspect, but so far I haven't seen anything about that. All I know is that I think this case is extremely important when talking about, I'm just gonna say DV because I don't want this video to get flagged. I want as many people to obviously see this video as possible because I think Alexis's story needs to be really shared. But if you don't know what DV is, just Google it. I'm really glad I'm doing this as my first case just because everything that's happened with 2020, I'm honestly so glad this is the first case I'm covering because I think it is extremely important considering 2020 and all of the lockdowns that are still currently occurring, that people really look out for signs in their friends and family because there are so many people out there right now that are stuck at home, whether it be adults or children. People are in extremely dangerous situations at this very moment. With that, I am going to let you guys go. I hope I got all of the points on this case across. I tried to do as much research as I obviously could. Let me know down below if I missed anything or your thoughts or ideas on this case, as well as any other cases that you think I should cover on this channel. Let me know if there's anything I should also be doing differently in filming this and putting these videos out there. Yeah, I really do hope that there is an update on this case really soon. Thank you for joining me in this case. I'll see you in my next video.